This is the 4th and 16 with Ellis Tolbert, a college and NFL football show talking X's and O's. It's no frills and no gimmicks. It's time to bring your A game. Let's talk.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to 4th and 16. I'm your host, Ellis Tolbert, sitting here with Faxon Childress. We're going to be talking all things college football. If you're a Clemson fan, a little somber, but I'm going to get you out of those drolls. We're going to have a good night tonight. First and foremost, we're coming to you live from Bronx Studios here in Greenville, South Carolina. We'll talk a little bit about that more later on. And we're coming to you live from The Roar. We're also on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Come say hi to us if you're watching over there. We're going to have a good night tonight. Faxon, how you doing, man? You having a pretty good night?
I would say I'm having a pretty good night. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk college football. After the Tigers' unfortunate defeat, I could be better. I can't lie to you. I could be better, but excited to be here and talk regardless.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it hurts more because everyone expected a win. And that's what happens when you become an elite program. You're going to go into every game thinking that you can win. That's the way it should be. That's the way the team believes. That's the way Coach Sweeney believes. That's everybody in the entire organization believes. It's all about the belief that you can win every single game that you play. And honestly, it hurt a lot of people's feelings. But that's just the fans. Imagine how the team feels. So we're going to talk about this a little bit today. We're going to get into the conversation about the game, and hopefully we can put it to bed. Phone lines are open, 864-654-7627. Get your thoughts in. We're also over on Facebook. If you want to have a comment or so, get in there. Look, man, first things first, let's not gloss over it. Hats off to Georgia. They did a great job. They came in, had a great game plan to stifle Clemson's offense. Their defense played with reckless abandon, and they came out with a win. Hats off to Kirby. He finally did it, right? I'm not trying to have this as a qualifying statement, but if Clemson just has a couple of breaks here and there, they can do it. But ifs, ands, or buts, right? The thing that bothers me the worst about this whole scenario is that Clemson didn't look very competitive offensively. Defensively, you come out there, you're ready to go, hats on fire. I'm loving all the effort that I had. A lot of players missing on the defensive side of the ball. You talk about a guy like Nolan Turner not playing in the game. Tyler Davis, a lot of talk about him not playing in the game before the game came on. But, the guys that came in did a great job. Makuba, first start ever as a true freshman. Hadn't been happening at Clemson in a very long time. Great game. You end up having guys like Ruka Roro, somebody that was an afterthought to a lot of Clemson fans because they don't know who he is or can't say his name, let's be honest. But great game out of that guy. Trey Williams filled in. But the offensive side just had its problems. So we'll talk about that here. Faxon, all right. So if you were to say the top issue in the game, what do you think it would be? I know what everybody looks at immediately and says, this is what it was. But what do you think was the worst problem in this game?
Well, I don't want to toot my own horn and say I called what I think is the worst problem, but I think the worst problem was the offensive line by far. Okay. And it would be really easy for me to come on here like all of these Clemson media members have been doing and all of the national media members and been bashing and bash DJ Uiagalelei. I'm not going to do that because at the end of the day, if you put another quarterback in that game and in that scenario, that he was in an impossible position to succeed, all right? The offensive line was not good all night, and whether you want to blame individual players for that, whether you want to blame coaching for that, whether you want to blame some of the groupings for that, I really think that the offensive line was the primary problem in comparison to DJ or the play call. I think the offensive line could not hold up, could not make enough blocks to give DJ time to complete these passes. So for me, I think the offensive line was the number one problem. 7 sacks, got absolutely dominated even when he wasn't sacked. DJ was getting flushed from the pocket consistently. You want to say he's holding on to the ball too long. He doesn't have anywhere to throw.
Right. That's where I want to start. So obviously we know have a lot of problems with the offensive line. That's nothing new. I mean, it's been a part of Clemson's MO for a little bit that their offense is a little bit finesse. Remember, we had this going on in 2018 where Desmond Howard tried to come out and call us out and say we're a finesse team. And we went out there and we started showing that we can run the ball. I want to see if that's in this team this year. Do you have that grit to own up to everything? And that's the thing that I want to talk about as well. You know, the fact that accountability phase over. I don't need anybody else to say it was my fault, it was my bad. That was done Sunday. This team needs to take that loss. Watch the film for sure. But go into Monday, go into Tuesday, go into Wednesday practice thinking there's nobody that's going to beat us for the rest of this year. When you have that kind of attitude, the talent's there. It's not as if this team is not talented. There's guys who can play some ball all across the entire offense, and that includes the offensive line. You got to think a true freshman starting, Matt Bockhorst, starting at a position that he's never played at Clemson as of yet. He really only played that since spring. You talk about guys coming in like Walker Parks, first-time starter. Jordan McFadden is not a first-time starter, but he's over on the other side now. Different game. It's just different. Justin Ross, who hadn't played in 600-plus days, finally getting back on the field. There was a lot that went into that offensive performance. I got Byron on the air. I'm going to get Byron on here. Byron, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for calling.
So I got a recruiting question because it's just an observation that I've kind of made about some players. So as a fan of Southern California, would you say that California probably produces the most amount of talent besides Texas that comes from high school?
That's a really good question, man. I'm going to answer that on the other side. Appreciate that, man.
Well,
you there?
Well, my actual question is the talent that comes out of California when it comes to high school, why doesn't it translate to college? Is it the coaches or is the recruiting system wrong?
That's actually a really good question. That's a really good question. Thanks for calling in, Byron. I don't know that it doesn't translate as much as it just depends on what scheme they go into, what they were used to in high school. DJ came from an offensive scheme that's not too different than what Clemson's doing now. Joseph Ngata, Folsom, similar offenses. I don't know that it's that the players they're not working out. I think the jury is still out for most of our guys. So you talk about Joseph Ngata. Injuries really plagued him, but he finally seemed to blossom in this game, which is a great thing, something that Clemson absolutely needed. You look at a guy like Bo Collins, not on the field yet. DJ, this is really his third start, and he was playing against one of the best defenses in college football, bar none. It's a little short-sighted because I've seen this before, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on today, but I don't know that people are being realistic about what happened. I don't think they're being realistic. I think that when you look at this game, everybody expected Clemson to come out, put 50 points on the board. Name a Clemson fan who's watched Trevor Lawrence lead this team, who's watched Deshaun Watson lead this team, who's watched Taj Boyd lead this team, and not think that they were going to score 50 or so on Clemson, on Georgia. That just wasn't going to happen. But I do think that while we can call out the schematic problems, the game time problems, this is the one thing that bothers me the most about it. You can say that DJ had a bad game. He'll tell you that. He'll be the first one to tell you that. You can ask every one of the offensive linemen, did you have a good game? They'll tell you no. Ask Tony Elliott. He's going to say, I didn't call the best game. But let's not go after these people ad hominem. I've heard some terrible things be said about DJ when just 24 hours before the game started, he was the greatest thing in Clemson history. Why are people doing this?
Yeah, and I think we need to be appreciative for what we have. I mean, last year coming in, DJ Uiagalelei was thrown into a top 5 game on the road against an elite Notre Dame defense, which you could argue was just as good as the Georgia defense, and that has been argued on this radio network and on others, that Notre Dame defense was just as good as the Georgia defense. Obviously, looking back on that take from some people, I think this Georgia defense is better, but let's not act like DJ didn't hang 400 yards and 4 touchdowns last year in a top 5 game on the road against Notre Dame. You know, he played extremely well in his other start, and he was thrust into a lot of games as the backup because of, you know, Clemson blowing opponents out. I still think DJ Uiagalelei is an extremely talented quarterback. I still think he is the correct answer quarterback for the future for the Clemson Tigers, and I'm not going to let one bad game where I do want to say it looked like the timing of the offense was off.
Yeah.
And that might be weird to say. Like, maybe not everyone picks up on that that's watching the game, but there were multiple muff snaps, and just the timing of the offense did not look natural. And for me, that was the most disappointing part of this game. And I feel like after an entire DJ looked better last year going on the road, being thrusted into a starting role against Notre Dame than he did this year against Georgia, and he looked more prepared last year after having an entire offseason to prepare for this game.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna sit here and blame DJ for that. I'm not gonna sit here and blame anyone specific. It's just concerning to me how poor the offense looked from a timing perspective and from a comfortability perspective, when last year it looked like DJ got thrown in and there was no drop off between him or Trevor, if we're being completely real. I mean, Trevor's thrown for 404, DJ's thrown for 404. It was just weird. There were a lot of weird things about this game.
That's right. And it's one of those things where you got to understand Georgia's game plan was to get into his head, and it worked. It worked. Got Jeffrey on the line. Jeffrey, what's going on, man? Can you hear me?
Hey, Ellis, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. Did I just hear the gentleman compare this Georgia defense to Notre Dame's defense last year? Did I just hear that?
Hey, I think you did hear that.
Did I? I think I did, right? Tell me I'm not hearing things, right? I'm a little crazy. I'll be the first to tell you, but I don't think you draw any conclusions, any type of not in any universe do you compare Notre Dame last year versus, you know, their defense versus Georgia's defense, you know, that you saw Saturday night. I mean, let's be honest. Look, guys, I tried to say it a lot during the offseason. It's a Clemson station. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got guys like Jordan Davis, Adam Anderson, Jacoby Dean, you know, Trayvon Walker, Jalen Carter, all those guys are not just NFL prospects. We're talking first, maybe second round, latest type picks. This was not your run-of-the-mill Georgia players, right? Like, we finally have a group, and they're all playing up to their potential. And there's just no way that you can really say that, you know, it was bad offense versus, you know.
Did I lose you there?
Let's make numbers. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you dropped out there.
Yeah, it's the airport over here in Green GSP. There's some bad service sometimes, but what we saw was a heavyweight fight on Saturday night. That was a heavyweight fight. I felt like everybody on the defensive side of the ball for both teams played up to their potential. There's been questions about can Kirby coach these guys up to their potential. I feel like you finally saw, maybe for the first time in his tenure, that every player on our defense played up to their, I guess, star ranking. Does that make sense?
It does. But, Jess, I got to let you go, man. Appreciate you calling in.
All right, buddy. Yes, sir.
You know, he has a point. Georgia, as far as star power up front, has a couple more players than Notre Dame does. That, without a doubt. Notre Dame did have some players go to the league and will be playing on Sunday.
Yeah, and I even said that I thought Georgia's defense was better than Notre Dame's. I wasn't the one drawing that comparison pregame, but it is a fair comparison from the perspective of saying DJ has done it against an elite defense. I use that very loosely, an elite defense before.
Right, and I think the difference in this whole scenario is that I think a lot of people, the reason why they were saying the things about Georgia, the reason why they were saying things about what Clemson would do to this defense is because, truth be told, we hadn't seen it. We hadn't seen it out of this Georgia team since Kirby's tenure. He hit on a great point that, you know, can he coach up this team? I think a defensive-minded guy, along with Dan Lanning, had a great game plan. I think they're going to do what they did to Clemson to a lot of teams this year. So for everybody looking at Clemson and going, you only scored 3 points, anybody not named Alabama, good luck scoring points on this Georgia defense. But at the same time, I do think a lot of this was that Clemson was not prepared mentally for this game. I don't think it was a physical thing at all. I think Clemson knew what they were going up against. But it's a little different when you're at the Beanie Bowl going against your own teammate who cares about you. You're going against Georgia in a packed stadium 135 miles away from your campus. They don't care about what happens to you. They want to win the game, and rightfully so. They did it. But there's just so much more that goes into this. There's more that goes into it. And with that said, I want to see the resolve of this team. I want to see, can they bring it back? And I believe they can. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the other side. I'm going to go to break here. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Clemson, Georgia, and then hopefully we can put it to bed. You're listening to 4th and 16 Sports right here on WCCP The Roar.
You're clear. Hey, Alice.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Walt wants to know if you want to be on Friday.
I can't do Friday. I go to a soccer game.
Okay.
Hey,
Do you want me to walk away from the mic?
What? Yeah, you're clear. You can do whatever.
yeah, we are clear, but I want to make sure our mics in the studio's on.
Oh, that's right. You're podcasting or something.
So while we're there doing this now, yeah, he tried that. He did that on Vegas.
He tried to say that I'm like these analysts were comparing these defenses before the game. He's like, did I hear him compare? I'm like, no, I didn't say that.
All right, Ramona, I appreciate it. We're getting calls today. How about
I
that?
didn't say that.
I know. And look, you're gonna get people disagreeing with you, man.
Every time he's like, we.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a UGA fan. There's no worse people on this planet.
Well, I mean, listen, they're gonna get their. We're gonna talk about this on the other side. They're gonna get their opportunity to talk. They won the game. Talk your talk. Have fun. But it still doesn't take away the fact that everyone knows that Clemson had one of the worst performances offensively in the last decade. So while I'm going to allow them to say the things they want to say, I think there are opportunities for everybody to understand that don't take too much out of this one. I would just say that. If Clemson plays Georgia again later in the year, different result. I promise you that. All right, we are getting calls. Ramona, just let me know when
do you
coming
have that
in.
phone charger
Yes, behind you.
behind me? Thank you so much.
Yep.
My phone's totally about to die. And I'm trying to check up on the Facebook and YouTube comments.
Yeah. We got any?
Not so far. I think that the fact that we're on the Roar now means we're more big time than Facebook. No offense to Facebook, but now instead of comments, we get people actually calling.
Which is great.
My dad said he can still hear us on the Facebook feed for whatever reason. It's weird.
Did you call me?
I didn't. I did not.
Okay. This guy's name is
Rory?
Roryald. Roryald.
Roryald.
Roryald.
Okay. Royald. Yeah, I apparently said WCCP, and I should not have done that. So I will think about that later on.
What, instead of the roar? Or?
Yep. I should definitely not say WCCP.
Hey, I've been here 20 years. I'll say it still.
It's like Bon Secours and Bilo Center.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still say Bilo Center. Welcome back, folks, to 4th and 16. Your host, Ellis Tolbert, here with Facts and Childress on the couch. We're talking Clemson, Georgia. Phone lines are open, 864-654-7627. Get in, get your thoughts. We're still talking Clemson, Georgia, man. And, hey, look, let's talk about the repercussions of the game. Let's not talk about the stats. We already know the stats. We know that DJ played bad. We know the offensive line played bad. Everything that anybody wants to say about it, we know about that. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about the implications of what happens now. Clemson only dropped to 6 in the polls, which is a good thing. That shows that people still respect this team. They understand that they had a little things they need to work on. The narrative before the game is that Clemson can't beat this Georgia team. It's Georgia's year. I've heard plenty of people say that, oh, DJ was going to struggle in this game. Ironically, he did. Sometimes they're just right. But that's the narrative that was sent out there. But I think at the same time, what you saw was this defense stepping up and really playing to the caliber of defense that we know their star power calls for, the scheme that Brent Venables puts in, what they've done in the past. They showed us that they can still play bully football, even with some pieces missing. They showed us that they're good enough to really get out there and be successful. Now, here's the other part about it. There's a negative. You lost your game. Primetime TV. Everybody saw it. The positive, you lost the game. You ain't got to worry about that anymore. Ain't no more talk about being undefeated. Ain't nobody out there talking about Clemson winning national championships now. You ain't got anybody talking about DJ winning the Heisman. You ain't got to talk about any of those things anymore. Now it's focus. Now it's game time. What are you going to do to come back from this? Like I said, all that accountability talk was left on Sunday. Monday is a new week. You're back at it, ready to go. We're not going to learn a whole lot from South Carolina State game besides, hey, did they get their fundamentals down? That's one thing. That's important. But we're not going to learn a lot from beating Coach Buddy Pugh. And in advance, I'm going ahead and apologizing to him. It's going to be a bloodbath. It is. Because this team, I believe, has bought in. What happens after Clemson loses? What happens after most teams who are competitive lose? They either put it together and the season's done, like everybody's calling for right now. Oh, Clemson season's done. The ACC is done. Is this the end of the dynasty? First of all, thanks for calling it a dynasty. But second of all, are you ready to come back out there and prove it? Not to all the pundits, not to anybody talking, not to me, not to you. If you're a fan listening to this, not you. You didn't even need to prove it to Dabo Swinney. You need to prove it to yourself. Are you ready to go out there and prove it to yourself that you're as good as you believed you were before this game happened? Because everybody is going in confident. Now you got that little bit of humility. But you know what? It's all still there in front of you. Are you ready to take it? Fax, do you think this team is going to be ready to go?
I mean, that's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question.
You know, personally, we've seen Clemson teams that have lost games earlier in the season be able to ignite a fire under them and bounce back and use it in a positive way. Prime example would be the 16 national title team dropping that game to Pitt in the middle of the season, and after that came out absolutely firing on all cylinders and never really looked back, ended up winning the national title. So do I want to say that it's possible for this team to channel this loss as a positive and run the table? Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. And when you look at the talent on offense and defense and all these 4- and 5-star recruits that are littered all over the field, and combine it with the fact that Clemson is 6-4 in the college football playoff era, which means they've made 10 college football playoff games already, won 2 national titles, they've made 4 title games. We know what this program is about. We know what Dabo Swinney is about, and we know what this team is about. But at the end of the day, it just relies on the backs of the players. The players have to channel this energy in a positive way and run the table. And if Clemson does run the table, I think there's a good chance they make the playoff. And I will just personally say that as a Clemson fan, I would love to get UGA again in the playoff. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah,
I want a rematch.
Yeah, and I've always told people this too, just as just common knowledge. It's hard to beat a team twice in the same season. The verdict's already out. This game was new. You didn't know what Kirby was going to do offensively. You didn't know if Todd Monken had fully implemented their offense. for the most part, they looked exactly the same. The only thing they did differently was add that tempo to try to get Brent Venables off his heels. He's pretty successful about that lately. But you didn't really know. It was a lot of unknowns for both teams. You get this out of the way. That's why I said that. You've got 11 more games to show what you're about. And then when you get in that conference championship game, it's put it all out there. We're all expecting Clemson to go undefeated for the next few bit, but is that really a possibility? Yes, it's all still there. If this team is as talented as Dabo says they are, there's no reason why the next level shouldn't be doing everything you can to get in the playoffs and then prove yourself again. Like I said, it's all about proving to yourself. Nothing that anybody says out there matters about what you do as long as you show up. And I know that this team will do it. I believe that because I've seen what Dabo's built over the years. And there's a lot of people who don't have a lot of confidence right now. You had a really bad game. The last few games against top 5 opponents, it didn't look really good. But you're not going to win every one of them. You're not. And sometimes you need things like this to recenter. Some of these guys never played in a game that big before. Some of these guys didn't play in front of any crowds last year. But now it's all there, and it's real. It's here.
I mean, the pressure is completely off of the Clemson Tigers at this point in the season. And everyone has, I'm already seeing people write us off. I'm already seeing people write DJ off, which is hilarious to me. After one bad game, you're going to abandon the top quarterback recruit in the nation who played amazing last year. I mean, sure, write Clemson off. Write Clemson off, and Clemson will slowly start to rack up these wins, and people will try and push it off like they usually do and be like, it's just ACC. Guys, we're 6-4 in the college football playoff. You can say it's just ACC, but the 2 national titles against SEC opponents don't lie.
Right. And like I said, it makes it easier because everybody has been wanting Clemson. They've been waiting on this moment. When is Clemson going to lose a regular season game to another team outside? People were really hoping that would happen with Texas A&M. Didn't. They were hoping it happened with Auburn. Didn't. They really made some things happen over these years. And when you lose that one, the first thing they do is go, oh, is it over? If you look at every pundit, is it over? Is Clemson's dynasty run coming to a close? Marcus Spears said the window seems to be closing. Okay, I'll take that. Everybody has their shots right now. If you're a Clemson fan, you're a little weary about wearing your Clemson garb to work or out in public because you're afraid somebody's going to say, oh, you guys got beat, huh? Doesn't matter. Does not matter. For you, you know what this program has accomplished. Faction just spilled it out to you. You know as a player what this program is and what your role is with this program. I don't think there's any problem. And I'm not the guy that's going to pump smoke. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be happening. Obviously, the offense needs to be reinvigorated. This is not me as a fan talking or a radio head talking. Dabo Swinney knows this. He mentioned it. There's things that they can do. Get back to the run game. Be more physical. Get back into a comfortable role. Get DJ understanding what his strengths and weaknesses are. Now you've seen it against the top 5 opponent. Nobody else should scare you at all on this schedule. Nobody, right? The things are there. We know we need to fix those things, but at the same time, think about this. I really don't like to draw comparisons, but think about 2014 Ohio State. This team loses by 2 scores to Virginia Tech, unranked at home. Everybody wrote that team off. If you look at the pundits, they were all saying the same thing about Clemson that they're saying about Ohio State then. The same things. This team is done. Can Urban actually – they might go 4-8. All the craziest things that you can think of. People were saying it. What did this team do? They believed in each other. They fought hard. They practiced with a purpose. They fixed the things that they were glaringly bad at. And guess what? Everybody was saying this team's not going to get in the playoffs. They were 4th in the rankings at the end because they blew out. And
it was
Wisconsin.
Controversial. It was very controversial.
It was a big deal. But then they go out and they proved it. They proved it. This team could easily do that. They're that talented, but will they?
And people are forgetting, as a major aspect of this game, how well the Clemson defense played in this game and how much we should be on here being positive about the Clemson defense. Like, seriously, every single defensive player played well. Yeah. And Clemson was missing multiple defensive starters in this game as well, in Nolan Turner and Tyler Davis up front. And also, people were going down like flies. It felt like during the game, people were rotating in and out. Landon Sanders sending prayers his way, out for the season, which is just so unfortunate for a good young player like him. But everyone on the Clemson defense played amazing in this game. So this is a championship caliber defense. And if the offense can get it figured out, there's no reason to worry about the Tigers this year.
That's right. And the only reason why it's like that is they're getting overshadowed based off of the performance that Georgia had. But I think if you were to weigh this independently, both teams did everything they could to win. The difference was a pick six. Before we go to break here, we're going to come back. We can talk a little bit more action around college football world. Let me tell you about my friends over at Pronk Studios. Of course, we're here in Greenville, South Carolina. They're going to be able to get you and your show the creativity, whatever's in your brain. They're going to be able to pull that out. They're going to help you with the social media aspect of it. They're going to help you be able to market it, and they're going to shoot it all in a high-quality studio. And you're going to look like $1 million. You're going to sound like $1 million. I do right now, right? So come on over. I implore you to go over to Pronk TV to be able to get your show started. I want to see you up here talking about stuff. If you're a Georgia fan, I know you'd love to get on there. Again, that's Pronk TV, PRONK.TV. More on 4th and 16 coming back in just a minute.
Y'all are clear.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I didn't realize coming back in. I got to get used to this.
It's definitely an adjustment. Yeah, we're good. I want to talk about like the lines and stuff too. Hey, I wanted to talk about Nevada beating Cal and Carson Strong. Bro, Carson Strong he's legit.
Try to tell you with your Chase Garber stuff.
Hey, he didn't play bad, but dude, that Nevada is actually good.
Okay, Alice.
Yes, Ramona.
You have to be out at 59:45, so the ID automatically plays.
Perfect. I'll do that. Hey, there it is. Big time. I was looking for big time. There it is.
Are we coming back at 39 or 40?
Welcome back to 4th and 16. I'm your host, Ellis Tolbert. We got some good stuff to talk about. We're going around to talk about some action around the rest of the country, college football. Phone lines are open, 864-654-7627. Get your thoughts in, your questions. We're having fun here. We want to talk about some other games that were kind of interesting. I think let's talk about the one that was already taken care of before we even played, and that's North Carolina losing to Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. What do you think about that one?
I mean, I think that the Tar Heels are massively overrated in retrospect. I think people were underrating how much they lost last year from a weapon perspective on offense, but I will give a shout out to one of my friends, Josh Downs, who had a monster day. Sam Howell, though, 3 picks. Might be seeing a little bit of regression from him this year without all those weapons. And, you know, he was kind of looked at as QB3 or maybe even higher by most coming into the season. And now it's looking like he's slowly moving down those with guys like Matt Corral and Carson Strong bursting onto the scene this weekend. So we'll see what the Tar Heels end up doing for the rest of the year. But I wouldn't be too confident as a Tar Heel fan.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing that happen. He was looked at as the ACC's best quarterback. DJ was somewhere around that second or third, depends on who you are. Some people had De'Aaron King. Honestly, the quarterback play in the ACC wasn't very good this past weekend as a whole. I think a lot of the guys, Sam Howell had a pretty decent day for Wake Forest, had a big blowout win. But everybody else had a pretty bad game. And I don't think that's happened for the ACC in a long time. ACC has actually had some pretty good quarterback play, despite everyone saying the teams aren't very good or this and that. It's actually really interesting to see that. But again, yeah, North Carolina, it'll be interesting to see how people view North Carolina now before and then after the Clemson loss. I guarantee you people are going to start saying, well, they can definitely beat Clemson now. They look at Clemson. That's going to be interesting. Got Devin on the other side. Let's see. Devin, you're on air, man.
Hi there. How's it going?
Pretty good.
I mean, I've got to agree with what you said about y'all were saying about North Carolina. I think a lot of people didn't really value just how much they lost between the receivers, the backs. That's a pretty overvalued team, in my opinion.
Yeah. Very, very good point. I think the reason why people were so cautious to say this team is going to take a step back is because they hoped that they were going to take a step forward and be that team that can beat Clemson.
I think a lot of people thought Howell was going to be able to kind of elevate the players around him when I don't think he's that elite or transcendent of a quarterback to where you can lose that many weapons off a team and he can still elevate the guys around him.
I don't know how many teams are. That's a very good point, Devin. I appreciate that, man.
Right. And the college football media had a lot of people out here this year talking about Howell and Rattler as some of the top quarterbacks. And I tell you what, that kid Carson Strong out there in Nevada, that's the one that people need to be watching.
Carson Strong, that's right. That kid's actually out there balling right now. I'm glad we're not the only – we actually talked about this. We're not the only
Before
ones
the show
that
as
said
well,
that. That was
yeah.
a really good one. Appreciate your call, man.
No problem.
Yeah, man, Carson Strong is getting some love over here on the Roar. I love it. He actually did have a really good game. Nevada going out to Cal and beating him. How about that? Again, college football, crazy. Things are happening all around. We talked about the Heisman 3. You had Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler. You had a guy like DJ Uiagalelei was all three of those guys. If you're looking at what the country would say, we're probably out of it right now, which is ridiculous because it's only week 1. There's so much more that's in store. But let's just face it, neither one of those guys had a great game. But it is what it is. I digress on that one. How about the Alabama-Miami game?
I told you that was going to be a massacre,
Listen,
dude.
man, I thought that was going to be a little bit more competitive. And I think that was what I keep talking about. That's that's a trend here is the hope. We hope these games are going to be competitive because we want to see Alabama, after what all they lost, maybe take a step back. They didn't. They look ridiculously good. I saw someone say it looked like Miami was the number 14 team in the ACC, not even the country. So it was one of those games where it really puts everything back in order. So, Alabama is back at the top. It's going to be hard to knock that team off. Georgia has a chance to do it. Again, week 1, we don't know how good Miami is. They might actually be really bad. They could be dumpster juice. But at this point, I don't know how to say that Alabama isn't going to be dominant again.
Bryce Young tore that defense to absolute shreds. It's literally unfair what Alabama is able to do to just bring in these QBs and plug them into the system, and everyone looks like a world beater immediately. It's a dynasty. It's the definition of a dynasty.
Yeah. Had a couple upsets this weekend, too.
We did.
Really good one. We'll start with the one that you called, UCLA beating LSU in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, honestly, going into the game, I picked UCLA on air. Going into the game, I was feeling more towards LSU or coin flip. That environment was just super weird. DTR was able to get the job done, have a pretty big day for the Bruins, and I'm not fully sold on any Pac-12 team in general, especially after the screwing around Oregon was doing this weekend against Fresno State. So the Pac-12 as a whole, I don't have my eyes on one team that I think is elevating themselves amongst the rest. But, an impressive win for UCLA nonetheless. I saw they're in the top 20 of the AP poll this week, so good for them.
Chip Kelly is riding on confidence right now. This is something I talk about all the time. Confidence does so much for you. If you're going in the grocery store and you're a single guy and you see that hot girl at the store and you want to talk to her and you go up to her and you say, hey, what's your name? And she gives you her name and she smiles back at you, your confidence through the roof. You feel like you can do anything. But if she rejects you, you're just down the dumps. And I just kind of feel like that's what happened with Clemson this weekend. Their confidence got shot and they didn't really know how to ride that wave. But at this point, a lot of teams did that. And I'm glad you brought up Oregon. We'll get to that in just a second. I got Cameron on the air. Cameron.
Hello, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask watched a lot of college football this weekend, as you guys did, I'm sure. The main game that stood out to me was Florida State and Notre Dame, and I wanted to ask your guys' thoughts on, was Florida State more impressive or was Notre Dame more unimpressive, or do you think it was a mix of both?
That's actually a really good question. I appreciate you calling, man. Oh, that's a really good question.
That is a very good question. I'll go first on this if you don't mind. I think Florida State was a lot more impressive than I expected. And, I feel like Notre Dame is another one of those teams like North Carolina that got put on this pedestal coming into the season because of what they did these last few seasons. And I feel like they lost a lot on both sides of the ball. We saw so many Tar Heels and Fighting Irish players go off the board in the NFL draft this year. And, for me, I was really impressed by what Florida State was able to do on offense, but if I do have to just make a statement in general, Mackenzie Milton should 100% be the starting quarterback for the Florida State Seminoles going forward. There is no reason to give Jordan Travis the QB1 role after throwing those 3 picks that ended up, in my opinion, essentially losing them the game, because I feel like if they were able to win the turnover battle in this game and Milton started the whole game, I think they might even get into the 40s. But some of the skill position players for Florida State looked very good as well.
Yeah, Helton looked really good. Jashawn Corbin, the Texas A&M transfer, he looks reinvigorated. It looks like this team is now bought in to Coach Norvell. That was one thing that I felt like the last few coaches couldn't really get. Florida State, for whatever jokes you have about them, their program, it just seems like that everybody had bought out of it. They didn't care about what happened. They didn't want to compete for Willie Taggart. The first year, they were still filling out Norvell. It was in a COVID year. A lot of crazy things happening. But I think what we saw in this game against Notre Dame, I still think Notre Dame's a good team. I think they're a quality team. Jack Cohn helps them out.
I don't trust Jack Cohn, but he is decent.
I would not.
I wouldn't want Jack Cohn as my quarterback.
Well, right now. Listen, I don't know that Florida State doesn't win more games than we thought. And I can't believe I'm saying that. Walt Deptool is going to hear this and go, Ellis, tisk, tisk, tisk. I'm back on the train. Florida State, at least if they play Mackenzie Milton, they have a shot. I think Jordan Travis has the the athletic ability to get them moving down the field. But I think ultimately, if you want to win games, you're going to need to go back to Mackenzie Milton. And hats off to that kid for being able to get back on the field as well. Just like Justin Ross, missed a lot of time. Never thought you're going to play again, and they're back out there. So hats off to him, Florida State. We got Randy on the air. Randy, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Pretty good. What you got for us?
Good, man. I just want to say I think some of the earlier shows, the thought process was Miami's just a really bad football team, and Alabama's not, as good as they normally are. I kind of agree more with, I think, what your thought process is. Alabama is exactly as good as they have been the last few years. And, Miami may be a little bit overrated, but they're certainly not a doormat. And Alabama destroyed them in every sense of the word.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Actually, during the game. Oh, sorry about that, man. I think you got cut here. I don't know what happened. My screen blinked. Anyway, that's actually a really good point that he brought up. During the game, I don't know if you watched this, Faxon. I don't know if you were paying attention to it like this. Every time Alabama had the ball, Bryce took a snap. It looked like they counted to 10 before they rushed him.
Dude, they're so good in the trenches.
He was out there playing back. Evan Neal, 6'8", 350. Big. I don't know what it is about Alabama that they keep things moving. But it's just it's unbelievable how this team is able to do this. And they have evolved with the times. A lot of people have thought, early on, hey, we figured out the Alabama formula. We're able to catch up to them. And for the most part, they did. I think Clemson was innovative, one of the first teams to be able to really show that they can work with Alabama. They can out-scheme Alabama. But every year they just completely change. And that's what we're looking for Clemson. And I believe that's what's going to happen starting from this week.
Yeah, and I think like he was saying, and I think the correct stance on this is that Alabama really is that good again. I mean, Bryce Young was so impressive to me, and I know he had a lot of time to throw, but his poise outside of the pocket, his just pure arm strength and talent on the run, and when he's forced outside the numbers, is just ridiculous. And then they've got Mechie and another absolutely loaded wide receiver room per usual. So really impressed with the Crimson Tide. I think Miami is a tad overrated, though.
That was a really good call. I appreciate that. We got Aiden on the line, too. Aiden, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. What you got for us?
I was going to ask what you guys thought about the Washington-Montana upset.
That's
is
a great
Washington
one.
that bad, or is Montana that good?
All right, so I think it's a little bit of both. I feel like Jimmy Lake, that's a really good one there. I was going to talk about that when you brought it out. You're the man, Aiden. I think it's a combination of both. I think Jimmy Lake, kind of like Mike Norvell, still filling out his team. He was gifted this job from Chris Peterson. It's not like they went out to look for him. He had been a part of the program, but you got to have these players buy into you. And losing at home to Montana is almost unacceptable. That's an FCS team. It's been done before. We know all the glory stories of App State beating in Michigan and Georgia Southern going down and really giving Alabama all they could handle. But this one was just unacceptable. I feel like Washington coming in at 20, they had a lot of expectations looking to get back on top over in the Pac-12. This kind of derails them for a long way. That's a really good call, Aiden. Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just feel like the Pac-12 as a whole is getting closer to what everyone's saying about the ACC. I feel like Oregon, with all the hype that they had coming into the season, should have really put it on Fresno State, but it took a last-second effort for them to really get away from them.
Dude,
they're going to Columbus.
Yeah, I'm concerned. And Ohio State didn't look super good either against Minnesota. I think that got kind of brushed over in the show because that game was played on, what was it, Thursday night?
But I think Minnesota is much better than people
Minnesota
think.
is very good. Minnesota is an underrated team, but Ohio State didn't look super impressive to me in that game. But Oregon, I think Fresno State's underrated personally. I think they have a really good quarterback as well in Herner, but I was not super impressed by what I saw from Oregon, especially at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
I think they have a massive question mark there. I don't think Brown is the answer at quarterback for the Ducks this year. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think that this weekend against Ohio State will be super telling, and a game for Pac-12 that I have circled on my calendar that I actually might be at is UCLA-Oregon on the 23rd. Because if Oregon were to win this game, there's a good chance they could collide there undefeated, and that could be a top 10 matchup if Oregon is somehow able to pull it off.
Well, you know, if they end up beating Ohio State, then Oregon automatically vaults up into the top 5. That's just what's going to happen. That game is a marquee game. We were supposed to see it last year. COVID and all the restrictions kind of stifled that one. But I think this game is going to be a big game, not only for Ohio State, because right now you're riding that high of you're winning games. You just came off a playoff. You want to get back to the playoffs and you want to win it, right? I think their schedule is much tougher than Oregon's. But for Oregon, it's a prove it thing. If you're Oregon, you want to go up to Columbus. You've had a lot of question marks. I think Oregon's defense is much better than it has been before. Ironically, the offense is kind of tapered back. But I think this is a prove it game for Oregon. And for Ohio State, this is we cannot lose this game. That's a marquee game for both teams. So really like that.
If you're a Tiger fan, I just want to say after losing and if there's rooting interest, you don't have to give me a reason to root against Ohio State, but I'll be heavily.
I'm going Ducks.
I will be heavily rooting for Oregon from a playoff perspective and from an anti-Ohio State perspective.
I'm going Ducks in this one. I just feel like there's a lot that can be proved, and Cristobal is one of those coaches that came from the Alabama Nick Saban tree. He knows how to get this team to play more physical, and if you can out physical, we saw Minnesota do a little bit that with Ibrahim at running back. Sad to lose him for the season, but if you can out physical Ohio State, they have the speed to be able to compete. I don't know that's going to actually happen, but I'm still riding with Oregon in this one. We got Steve on the line. Steve.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you was talking about the Montana win this weekend. That was one of 7 FCS wins over FBS teams this week.
Yeah, Georgia Tech took it.
Pretty good weekend for FCS.
Yeah.
Well, Northern Illinois is not FCS.
Well, not FCS, but yeah.
There's one near upset too. Number 7 Iowa State only beat Northern Iowa, which is the FCS team, by 6-1.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. Everybody likes to hate on FCS teams, but some of them's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good care. I'm gonna take you off the air, man. But look, I don't know if you guys remember this. I know a lot of people don't, but there's been times where Wofford and Furman has taken Clemson into the halftime, and we're going, what in the world is happening? I mean, again, Georgia Southern, when they were FCS, going up against Alabama. Some of these teams are really good, and we're overlooking them. I will say I still do not think that losing to Montana at home as a top 20 team is acceptable. I can't give you that one.
And I can't act like I'm super educated on the Montana football team as well. Like this is
the Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies are apparently they were giving them a dogfight. I can't believe they pulled it out. That's a really disappointing loss for the Pac-12 as a whole, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, a couple of other things. We're going to talk about the big games coming up this weekend. I think you had one on your list. What are you looking at to be a really nice game?
Iowa State. I am so excited for this game. Iowa State. I think the line is 4.5 on this one in favor of Iowa State. Iowa State didn't exactly look good this weekend. Again, they struggled a little bit against University of Northern Illinois. So or Northern Iowa rather.
Yeah, that's what he was just talking about.
So that's not. It's just not a good look for Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, and all those guys at Iowa State. I'm picking Iowa to win this game against Iowa State.
I was gonna say Iowa looked really good against Indiana. I did not see that one coming. I thought Tom Allen had this team really poised for success, and they took a huge hit getting Michael Penix back. Freifogel was out there. They couldn't get anything done against this Hawkeye team. I'm going to have to go with Iowa, too. That's a little strange. Another game I'm looking at is the Ohio State-Oregon game. We talked about this a little bit before, but I think this game has the most implications out of most of the games that are happening this weekend. I think if Oregon wins this, again, they catapult into the top 10, something they hadn't done in a long time. Well, the top 5, something they hadn't done in a long time. And if you're Ohio State, this is just another way to say, hey, we've got elite wins against teams in the top 10. Oregon's coming down. They're going to be well respected. I do think it was a little odd that they had a little bit of a tough game with Fresno State, but I like you, I like to say that this team is a little bit better. We didn't know what to think about Fresno State because they obliterated UConn, but at the same time, so did Holy Cross. Randy Edsall's out at UConn, so I don't know what to think of that, but I will say that I think this game is going to be one to keep our eyes on, not for just college football in general, but if you're a Clemson fan, you're starting to look at positioning here, and it's a little soon to do that, but I think they can absolutely do that. I'm just concerned that people are going to write Clemson off. Clemson fans are going to write Clemson off. You're going to listen. You're going to buy into all the chatter from all the people and the talking heads saying that this team is done for. It's over. But all I got to say is best is yet to come. With that said, we're coming to the end of 4th and 16. Thank you guys for listening to us, and I appreciate all the good callers. We'll be back here next Tuesday at 7 p.m. at The Roar. We'll also be on YouTube and Facebook. Have fun with us. Come in. Spread the word. Again, 4th and 16. I'm Ellis. Faction Childress. We're out.
Y'all are clear.
All right. Appreciate that, Ramona. If you guys are watching this on Facebook, YouTube, we're going to be talking on just a little bit longer, have some fun with you guys, and talk a little bit more about some games coming up this weekend. I do think that the game slate this weekend is vastly better. Listen, I'm going to tell you one that I'm actually going to watch, and this could be hilarious. I think Coastal Carolina,
Kansas,
having Kansas come down after beating them last year, that's going to be interesting. Kansas won a game, first and foremost.
Dude, I think Coastal's going to slap them.
It's not even going to be close. But that's the thing I like about it, because right now, this Coastal Carolina team, truthfully, I think they can compete with anybody in the state. I'm not saying that.
Whoa.
I think they can compete. I'm saying they could come up to Clemson and at least put 14 on the board.
I mean, dude, Georgia just scored 10.
10.
Georgia didn't even score 10. Georgia scored 3. So
did.
I don't know about all that, but Coastal is a very good team. I respect their program a lot.
Yeah, I legitimately think that their scheme, what Coach Chadwell does, gives them the opportunity to be competitive. This is why they're winning the games that they won. This is why a lot of people are really high on Coastal. I think the ceiling for this team, though, is maybe 12. I can't see, even if they were to go all the way undefeated, we're still on that narrative of these teams that are not in a Power 5 not getting to playoffs. The only thing I will say is, seriously, Cincinnati might have a shot at playoffs.
Yeah.
They might legitimately have a shot, because if they go undefeated, they're going to have a good resume. They're already well respected. They're already pretty high in the top 10. I know it's going to be weird, Clemson being 12-1, jockeying to get in with Coastal Carolina, with Oklahoma, and with Cincinnati. This sounds like a ridiculous question. Do you think that Cincinnati gets in over Clemson?
Listen,
See, we laugh about these things now.
Listen, I actually think it could happen. Like, I genuinely believe it could happen, and this is why. If there is any year for, number one, the ACC gets no respect, and I can't sit here and on the show and act like it should, because these last couple of years have been beyond rough.
Yeah, it's bad.
And I can't, like, we can go back 5 years and I can say, oh, look at all these teams that are really solid. Go back to the Florida State era. ACC was really sound. These last couple of years have been terrible outside of Clemson. Notre Dame coming has helped that a lot. But at the end of the day, the ACC is not a super strong conference. So if there's any year because this is a year that Clemson lost, and that doesn't happen super often when you go back. These past 5 years, I think Clemson's been undefeated in the regular season, 3 of them. So it's a year that Clemson's lost in the regular season. It's a year where they're currently not slated to play any top-flight opponent to prove themselves. And it's a year where if they drop another game, they're done.
Yeah.
And, you know, so many people have been pushing and itching to get these group of 5 teams in, and it's eventually going to happen. I just really hope Clemson doesn't take the
We're not the first one.
Yeah.
To do it. Well, see, here's one that I was thinking about, too, in that same situation. We're talking about jockeying and everything, and it matters. I think from now on, Clemson's unfortunately in the situation of no longer your schedule doesn't help you. And it's not even about not having any marquee wins left on the schedule by everyone else's out there standards. And like we said, we're not giving any props to the ACC because the ACC is not good. But at the same time, I don't think beating these teams are going to give Clemson any credit. I think if you're going to get in, you have to absolutely slaughter everyone. I'm not talking you win a game by 14 or 17. I'm talking about everybody has to be beaten by at least 21. And the reason why I say that is because, again, the narrative is already there that, oh, you don't play anybody. What is your resume? You had one good team on your schedule and you lost to them. What is your resume? Oh, you beat Boston College. Cool. Boston College is going to be a really good team this year. Do you think anybody outside the ACC is going to care?
No one knows who Phil Jerkovich is.
Nobody cares.
And we know because we watch Clemson and we watch the ACC.
Right.
But no one knows, like, on a national scale that Phil Jerkovich and this Boston College team are actually a really good team.
Right.
And no one's going to respect the Boston Colleges and the NC States that are decent wins.
Exactly.
But no one else is going to view that as a decent win, especially if they're not ranked.
So that's my concern. By the time that we play NC State, they have a chance to be ranked. Boston College will not. They're a little bit too far back for them to start getting votes. NC State got 81 votes to be ranked this past weekend. They play well. By the time they get to Clemson, that's like, 3 weeks from now? We have a shot of playing a ranked team again. That's going to be great because we're not playing a team that's going to give anybody any kind of – like I said, I don't care what Clemson does this weekend. They can win 150 to nothing. People are still going to say, yeah, but what about Georgia? That's all they're going to say. You go beat Georgia Tech, they're going to, oh, yeah, Georgia Tech just got beat by Northern Illinois. Who cares? You have to go out and beat somebody, and you have to beat them badly. And unfortunately, that's the situation that Clemson's in. I think the narrative is going to drive this whole season for them. But I think this team is uniquely built to do exactly that. I think they have the opportunity to go out there and put a lot of points on a lot of teams and then say, hey, we're ready. Put anybody in front of us, because we've been through this already. That's why I was saying I think it's the big deal about everything is that you went ahead and got that pressure out of the way. It was immense pressure for both teams to get that win. I know before the game, think about this. This is the hilarity part of it. Going into the game, everybody said this game matters more for Georgia. Clemson can lose this and get in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. Georgia has to win this game. It doesn't matter for Clemson because they're going to run through the cupcake schedule and still get in. Blah, blah, blah. Now that they've lost and we saw it with our eyes.
It's completely turned.
It's turned. Now it's, I don't know if Clemson can get in the playoffs.
Now it's Oklahoma's going to win out, Ohio State's going to win out, and the narrative is completely shifted. And I feel like it wouldn't be that way if Georgia lost, because people would just be like,
of course.
Well, they have a chance, because people would say they have a chance at Bama. Mm-hmm. They're going to get their shot at Bama in the title game. If they beat Bama, they're in.
Right. So that's why I'm saying it was a catch-22 for Clemson all the way, because the narrative would have been, okay, if Clemson beats Georgia, and I'm not just saying this because I'm sourpuss about Clemson losing. Legitimately, if Clemson beat Georgia, it would have been, oh, well, this Georgia team's not ready yet, and they still have a chance. They got so many weeks to prepare for Alabama, and whenever they get in the playoffs, watch out for them, right? But if you lose to Georgia, now it's, oh, man, I don't know about you guys' playoffs chances. I don't know, man. You guys don't play anybody left, and I just don't see it. To me, that's just ridiculous. Again, Ohio State started their 2014 season with a win. The second game of the year. Remember, go back into like a little history lesson here for people who don't remember. Ohio State came into that season, 2014, off of a loss in the Orange Bowl to Clemson, right? Braxton Miller tears up his shoulder. He gets back healthy during spring. I think it's actually fall. Messes up his shoulder again. What ends up happening? J.T. Barrett, redshirt freshman, was not prepared for the big moment, going up against an unranked Virginia Tech team who was there ready to ruin it for him. They got beat by 2 touchdowns. Okay? After that game, everybody was like, Ohio State, man, I don't know. They dropped down as far as number 16. Nobody believed in this team at all. They really didn't have a whole lot of teams left on their schedule to play that were ranked either. The only team I can think of, that there are 2 teams that they played through that whole stretch from the Virginia Tech game to Wisconsin was Penn State and Wisconsin. That was it. They didn't have a huge resume where they were playing all these super good and ranked teams. They just had to do what they did. They went out there and handled business. There are some games that were close in there. But when they got to that conference championship, they got to Michigan actually. JT hurts his leg. He's done. Cardale Jones, big shotgun. I think that's what they called him. Kid didn't care about school. He tweeted out, like, why are we coming to school to learn? I've come to school to play football because he's an idiot. But he goes out there, his first game ever really starting, getting any kind of playing time, torches Wisconsin. So everybody's going, you got to put them in. You got to put them in. But everybody's going, I don't know. There's one spot left. Baylor should be in this. Remember, it was Baylor, and if it wasn't Baylor, that TCU should have got in. But Ohio State got in, and they went up against Alabama. That year, all the talk was nobody can beat Alabama the whole year. Nobody can beat them. They had Blake at quarterback, Derrick Henry, had old Mark playing running back. If I'm not mistaken, they had a couple. They had 3 running backs that year. Kenyon Drake. They had every player that you can think of. And Ohio State took it to them. Beat them by, I think, 21 points. Then they got to play Oregon. The same thing. They got by Alabama. That was a fluke. They beat Oregon, I think, by 21 points. They scored 42 in back-to-back playoff games. Do I think that this is possible for this Clemson team? They have all of the talent to be able to do that. It's mental. It's also schematic. Is Dabo really going to go after, making changes? I don't mean firing Tony Elliott. Everybody wants to fire Tony Elliott. I mean, is Dabo going to he's going to put pressure on Tony to really, really look at this offense and make some changes? What do you say about that?
Listen, you know my thoughts on Tony Elliott.
Hey,
I've come on this show a couple times, and I've critiqued Tony Elliott. First of all, I want to say I'm thankful for what Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott were able to do as a duo for this program, and they seriously helped win us a national title, and I'm eternally grateful for that. These last 2 years, in my opinion, have been an absolute train wreck, and I feel like Clemson's scheme is boring and predictable, and to the point where it's so vanilla, it's been figured out. And in a lot of these big games over the last couple of seasons, we've seen that. Even against Ohio State last year, that 28 points on the board is a lie. Clemson did not score 28 points in that game. That was not a 28-point performance last year. We come in this year. I know the Georgia defense is good. This isn't the prime 84 Bears on defense, dude. Like, you should be putting up points with all the talent you have and DJ at quarterback.
For the most part, Georgia's game plan wasn't complex. If you look at their defensive game plan, it was not complex. They were not reinventing the wheel. They just saw blood in the water. They smelled blood in the water. They saw that DJ was, I hate to say this, seeing ghosts. And they were like, listen, we're going to send the house at this kid every single time until he proves that he can push it down the field. And he couldn't. In this game, he couldn't. But that's okay. I mean, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, if you're a Clemson fan, man, all you've heard is how great DJ is. You've heard about how great this offense is. We've done it. We've sat here and talked about how we're going to score 40 points on everybody. In the first game, you score 3 points. 3. It's tough. But, I mean, look, I've seen other teams do worse. I've seen other teams do worse. I will say I made fun of Miami, and I was like, can they even score against Alabama? And then we'd go out and not be able to score. So shout out to 2 of the MVPs of the game, Will Spires and BT Potter. Because without them, could have been worse. I can't believe I even just said that. But it's true.
The anti-Will Spires agenda is officially on halt.
Yeah.
I'm coming out here. I'm putting it on halt. Will has been in the gym this offseason.
With Will Spires.
I'm rocking with Will Spires.
We got some comments over here on YouTube. Thanks for rocking with us, guys, over at YouTube. I didn't even realize this was going. Obviously, if you're watching over on YouTube, we have added the element of radio talk. So for the first hour of the show, we are going to be talking on the radio. So I have cuts. I have breaks that I have to hit. But then after that, we're just going to sit around and chat a little bit with you guys. So I appreciate you guys watching. Let's see. He was like, John Sarian was like, we can still hear the behind-the-scenes conversation. Guess they don't monitor the YouTube chat. Nah, we don't care.
No, on YouTube and Facebook, it's at commercial breaks. Like, we could mute it, but you can really see the behind the scenes. We're just talking to each other.
Yeah, it's all good, man. At some point, we're going to get the camera going, and we'll just hang out with you guys. But we are trying to do some other stuff. Covering a soccer game. I could do that, Braxton Matthews. I played soccer all through high school. I was really good at soccer. Let's see. It's like, yeah, we can hear you over on YouTube. Hey, it's fine, man. It's cool. Hey, so let's talk about your favorite team, the Texas A&M
Dude,
Aggies.
I don't even want to talk about.
Let's talk about them, man, because I feel like
they're now ranked above Clemson.
Yeah, they're ranked above Clemson. I think they have an opportunity to really stay there. That could be a team that could.
Who's the quarterback at Texas A&M this year?
I want to say it's. Hold on, we're gonna look at this. I know who that is
because Kellen Mond has finally progressed after his 8-year tenure at Texas A&M.
Yeah, he did. Haynes King. I forgot that Haynes King got the job. I thought it. Huh.
Did he win the job in camp? Yeah, Matson, our producer in the back, just texted me King.
Yeah, he won the job. Wow. Looks like he had a pretty good game. 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 67. Of course, he had Anias Smith and Devin Ashane playing. So,
dude, their schedule is cake outside of Bama.
Do you see why I'm saying now? Look at this.
Their schedule is legitimately so easy outside of Alabama.
We can't really say anything, but it's true. It's true. They don't play anybody. So they're traveling to Colorado. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be a bloodbath. Wow. They're going to beat the crap out of Colorado. Anyway, then they play New Mexico. That's a win. Arkansas. That could be an interesting game. I'm interested in seeing what Arkansas does. I know they had some troubles this past weekend. But, if Arkansas goes out and they beat Texas this weekend, might have to start looking at Arkansas as an interesting team. They're not going to win the conference. They're not going to win their division, especially not the way that Alabama was playing this year, but it's fine. So if we're looking at Texas A&M's schedule, let's go through this. Kent win already, 41-10. I'm saying they're going to beat Colorado. They're going to beat New Mexico. I would say right now they'd beat Arkansas. They're definitely going to beat Mississippi State. I don't know what happened to Mike Leach. I know they won the game, but they were so far away from losing it.
Let's, I'm just going to throw an idea out there. Maybe Mike Leach gets fired after this year, and Clemson's looking for an offensive coordinator.
I don't think we need to go. And dude, we are already having problems running the ball now.
You don't need to run the ball in air raid.
We won't run the ball.
Listen, if we're bringing back Joe and Frank Latson, we got Bo Collins up next. Bring in Mike Leach, implement the air raid, let DJ. If you're gonna abandon running the ball, you may as well go full out. You don't want to mess around in the middle. Go air raid.
You actually have a really good point on that one. I can't really. I have to concede that one.
The Mike Leach offensive coordinator at Clemson would be the ultimate win for my timeline.
I don't think they need to do that though. I would like for them to
figure it out on their own.
I don't know. That would be weird. Let's look at another. So they have Alabama. They're not going to win that game. If they win that game, they win the national championship. But they're not winning the game. So right now that would put them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-1. That's pretty favorable.
They're going to end up like 10-1, dude.
Missouri, they're going to win that one.
We can't get rid of these guys.
South Carolina, they're going to win that one. Auburn could be an interesting game. Mississippi could be an interesting
Auburn
game.
looked, I know it was Akron, but Bo Nix looked really good.
Did you see Mississippi last night?
Yeah. Matt Corral is.
Wow.
Matt Corral's QB1.
Wow. Ooh, that dude's good. He actually might have put himself in a position to be QB1 going to the draft.
Yeah, literally, Matt Corral and Carson Strong, we'll say we're week 1, so we can be ahead of the curve on this. Matt Corral and Carson Strong, the most underrated players in college football by far.
Absolutely. And Matt Corral's got good size. He's around 6'1", 6'2", 205, 210. He's got good speed, evidently. We saw that last night.
Absolute cannon.
Rocket arm. And then the play design from Lane Kiffin is just, and Lane Kiffin and Jeff Lebby, I envy that right now.
Listen,
I envy that.
All I'm gonna say, don't be surprised when Lane Kiffin ends up at LSU in a year or two after Orgeron gets run out.
Oh, let's talk about that really quick. So, all right, first and foremost, okay, they're gonna beat South Carolina. I'll say between Auburn and Mississippi, they go 1-1, so that's 2 losses.
Yeah, that's a good point by whoever said that. I think they drop one of those games.
They're gonna beat the crap out of Prairie View. And I think they'll beat LSU 10-2.
10-2.
That's a great season for them.
That's an Aggie season.
Yeah, that's a beyond Aggie season. That's a great season for them. They hadn't done anything relevant in a long time. That's going to come back for us later on, but it's true. But let's talk about Ed Orgeron and LSU. So first and foremost, they got him on camera calling out some fans of UCLA, saying that they have. I'm not going to repeat what he says. Just look it up. But after the game, they had some fun with it. The players had some fun with it. They kept playing, and they were in the locker room dancing. I feel like they manhandled LSU. It's weird to see, 1, UCLA, 2, Chip Kelly back on track, and 3, manhandling an SEC team. That was great.
Dude, it felt like I was in a fever dream.
What is happening?
Like Chip Kelly, I'm having like a brain clash because I'm an Eagles fan, and obviously Chip Kelly's now at UCLA. I'm like, do I pull for UCLA or do I pull for LSU after they beat Clemson and their fans were so obnoxious? I was having like an internal conflict watching that game.
Well, I honestly, a confident Chip Kelly, that's scary. Because when he was at Oregon, he was confident and he had the players that he wanted. They were pretty dang good. So good enough to get them in a national championship. And I think that Oregon got to the championship in 2014 based off of his players that he recruited. Now, you could talk about his recruiting practices, but still, a confident Chip Kelly with a team that has any modicum of talent on it, that could be scary. But LSU is going to play McNeese State, and his son plays quarterback for them.
Max Johnson's putting up 5 touchdowns.
But his son is playing for McNeese State. He's the quarterback.
Oh.
So I'm wondering if it's one of those things where, do you really pound your team, your son's team like that? Do you really pause? Do you really want to destroy your son's team like that? I don't know, man. I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna go lenient on them.
Let's see what happens.
Let's move along from that one. But so I think college football this past weekend, showed us a lot of. You can't really count on anything that you expected. I mean, I think we all had a feeling that we could lose. I never, without a doubt, thought that we couldn't lose to Georgia. I honestly, if the loss was not the way it was, I would have felt different about it. It sounds strange, but I don't care that we lost to Georgia. I care that we lost to Georgia the way we lost to Georgia, where it just looked so helpless offensively. And I know defensively was a tip your cap game. It was a helmet tap type game. But I just don't. I felt like Clemson, for the first time in a really long time, even against Ohio State and LSU, I saw the fight there. They beat us by multiple scores. And honestly, if not for a pick six, it would have been a 3-3 game.
That's so funny to think about, dude.
But
that game was bad. That game was so bad.
Pottis Lesney missed the kick.
He did.
So it would have been 6-3. So
worst football game I've watched in a while.
Was it worse than Penn State, Wisconsin?
That game at least got interesting at the end.
Because Graham Mertz kept throwing interceptions.
That's true.
But
and then the Penn State missed the extra point, and then Wisconsin was going down the field. That game was better. I hated on that game while it was being played just to watch the worst game of the night with actual emotional investment later that night.
Well, I feel like the reason why this game was so painful is because it was a heavyweight game. I mean, that's what old school football heads love. Some people don't like the 63-45 games.
I like them.
Did you watch Presbyterian? Kevin Kelly.
It was like 84-43.
84-43, and the quarterback, who's a transfer from Michigan, had 10 touchdown passes.
That's an innovative style of football. No punting. No kicking.
2 points every time.
I love it. I love it.
Listen, and that's, again, when I talk about narrative, that's kind of what happened, because you got to think about this too. Before the game, everybody was thinking, we could beat Georgia, and Clemson's going to be elite. After the game, everybody's going, Georgia's elite. Clemson's not going to be that good. It could be the end. And then all these other teams, I guarantee you, on Clemson's schedule, like your Boston Colleges, NC States, all those other ones are thinking, we might have a shot at Clemson this time. If we blitz DJ, yeah, man, we might be able to.
Good. I want them thinking that.
That's my point. So everybody's narrative is wrong. And I'm telling you, if Clemson comes out angry, good luck to all of them.
People are writing off this Clemson team one game into the season, and that is just so funny to me because I've watched it happen after the Pitt game in 2016. I've watched this exact same thing happen. And obviously circumstances were different, but you know how much I heard about the Clemson defense and why they couldn't stop anyone after that Pitt game in 2016? It's about the same thing with the offense. What did that defense do in the college football playoff? They went in, they shut out Ohio State. Shut out. Goose egg Ohio State. And then they held Alabama to 31, got 2 key stops late, and Deshaun was able to throw that touchdown and create the greatest moment in Clemson football history.
So that's why I'm saying I'm not trying to pump sunshine in everybody, but you have to think that this team still has it all there.
You have to have a balance. You can't let one game determine, and it's the same people that were hyping us before the game too. It's the exact same crowd.
But you know what? I will say this. I will absolutely say this. I can't remember it's been a while. The last time absolutely no analyst or pundit picked Clemson. None of them.
That was weird.
I have not seen that, and I'm talking about on all the networks, CBS, Fox. You looked at the ESPN. Of course, we know ESPN is going to vote against them. None of them picked Clemson. I was looking at Clay Travis, who's an idiot. He said Clemson is going to lose. Booger McFarland was like, "Oh, DJ's going to he's going to struggle." He did. Now everybody thinks, "Oh yeah, see this? We told you." Feinbaum had been talking
it's Feinbaum against Clemson.
And it worked. Now everybody's going to go, yep, that's right, because he can just say dumb things like, I think the dynasty's ending, and everybody goes, that Clemson's done.
If you think the dynasty's ending, you haven't looked at recruiting.
I know.
It's just ridiculous.
The funny thing is,
these people are so feeble-minded.
The funny thing is, Georgia actually does out-recruit Clemson.
Georgia's a fantastic recruiting team.
They out-recruit Clemson.
They broke the record for 5-star recruits on the field. I think they played 19 5-stars. Yeah.
They out-recruit Clemson.
But Clemson's
regularly.
Clemson's number 2, number 3 every year in recruiting.
But see, here's the problem.
That's how you extend a dynasty.
But this is the problem with Georgia fans. This is the problem with the narrative. Unless you play Georgia again, you're not going to see Georgia for a while. So all you're going to hear is people talk about, yeah, well, we beat y'all. We beat y'all bad.
Remember that one game where neither of us ended up winning the national title, but in 2021 where we scored 3 offensive points and won? Yeah. I can hear it for years
to come. You see what I'm saying?
It's just ridiculous.
It's kind of like, it's different with South Carolina because we could beat South Carolina every single year, and they have a chance to live it up the next season. Of course, they don't, but they have a chance to get back at Clemson again. Now, because we're not going to play – when do we play Georgia again? I think it's like 2027 or something like that. I don't know. I know it's one of those years that's opposite of Notre Dame. And then there's an Oklahoma game in the 2030s, which is going to be weird because you'll be out of college, and that'd be weird.
I'm going to be an adult.
You're going to be an adult man. That's weird. Not that you're not now, but you know what I mean.
I'll have like a job.
Yeah. We did like, what in the world? But Georgia's going to get to sit on this for a while, just like they did in 2014. We beat you guys in 2014. We blew you out, and now they're going to get.
There's not a worst fan base that could be enabled with this sort of ammo, and like they shouldn't even be feeling confident. They played terrible.
Yeah, but
their offense was terrible.
But now you have everyone telling you that you're the second best team in the country because you beat Clemson, which is kind of in a way
it's hypocritical.
It's kind of like flattering. You beat us, and now everybody takes you serious. You had to beat us, and everybody took you serious, which is fine. Like I said, they can own that. They beat us. They have the rights to say that. If we beat them, we'd be shoving it down their throats too. Y'all still suck. You hadn't won a championship since '81. I mean, since '80. We would do it.
Whoa! They just won their championship.
Oh yeah, the championship game.
That's Georgia's championship game.
Wow. Now it's also South Carolina's because they were there. They had their own game.
I saw so many Carolina fans celebrating.
It's so weird. They had their own game in Williams-Brice, but they were mostly in Charlotte watching Georgia play Clemson. I get it. Nobody wants to watch you play Eastern Illinois. But at the same time, you are not a Georgia fan. Like, literally, I'm not going to go to the South Carolina-Georgia game to see Georgia beat South Carolina. I could care less. But that's just the nature of everything. But, like I said, man, I think the narrative is what's going to have to drive this team. Like I said, it's not about proving the pundits, because even if you go out and you beat, like I said, you can win the next game by 200 points. You can win the next game by 200 points. It's good for Clemson because we're going to get the tune up. This sounds so bad. We're going to get the tune up because we're playing South Carolina State and then Georgia Tech.
Dude, Georgia Tech is a train wreck.
I know, and that's great because rambling wreck, it makes sense. We have a chance to like really iron things out. So who was our best 5 on the front line?
Last time we played Georgia Tech, we put up 73.
I know. Who is our best 5 offensive line? You need to get your receivers working together and with DJ. It's unacceptable that there were multiple plays where 2 receivers are in the same spot. You can't do that. And then also, you got to get this running game going. So I would not mind if we ran 80 plays against South Carolina State and 65 of them were runs. I'm so serious.
We have to figure out something in the run game.
Drill it into Tony Elliott's head. Run the ball. Run the ball. Look, I get it.
You can't throw every down with a bad pass protecting O-line.
And the thing is, too, like, one, you see DJ struggling out there. He's seeing ghosts. He's not he's
very good for his confidence to continue to throw. Thank you, Tony.
Come on, man. Like, you're killing the kid. But at the same time, it's like, if we're running the ball, I know the whole concept of football in general is you take what the defense gives you, right? I want to see Clemson play bully ball. I want to see them, you stack the box, we don't care. We're running at you. Oh, we only got 2 yards? That's okay. We're running again. Oh, we only got 2 yards? You know, guess what? Now we only have 6 yards to go on 3rd down. No, what we're doing is we're passing on 1st down, no completion. Now it's 10 yards. 2nd down and 10. We run for 1 yard. Now it's 3rd and 9, and we do some kind of dumb option route with passing, and it gets pick sixed. I'm done with that. So, I don't know. All you guys over on Facebook and YouTube, thanks for sticking with us. I think I see 5 around here now. We'll be back next Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit further with us. Get in. If you're watching, you're more than welcome to call in on the show. Then I'll be saying the number every once in a while in there. But again, appreciate you guys sticking with us, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Hopefully, we'll see some crazy chaos along college football, but not Clemson losing to South Carolina State. I think I would probably retire from doing this ever again if that happens. But have a great night, and I'll see you guys later.